Click the links to join the channel here over at subscribe. Check out the Odyssey and Rumble. So the Russian BioShock game Atomic Heart is a bestseller and also controversial as all heck. Plot twist. No, no, and no. So Russian game triggers the globalist soy boys who were very much on board with the current thing. Whatever their puppet masters tell them the current thing is, they're on board with it. The same people who were putting, I'll say, the panties in front of their face and for their icon photograph, and they were making sure to tell people to wear those panties in front of their face for the past 3 years and do all this kind of stuff. It's like you're at home and you have that thing on your face, and that's your photo, but you're at home, so clearly this is just virtue signaling, telling like they do these indignant virtue signaling messages where they'll tell people in all capital letters, wear those panties in front of your face and wash your hands. Hey, fair enough, washing your hands is very good advice, but they'll do a period between each word and clap their hands on exclamation points and be so outraged. I'm like, you're not really outraged about this, or if you are, you're mentally ill, because it's just something to virtue signal on Twitter. You're hoping you're going to get 40,000 likes and it's going to be a big deal. It's the same. You see a Slava Ukraine, guys. You see a Ukrainian flag in the bio, then they very much support the current thing. And what is it? It went from the Wu flu and the panties in your face and washing your hands, and then getting the treatment for that. Like, I'm gonna pass on that. I tell you what, I will wash my hands more. That is good advice. And if you wish me to wear the panties, I will wear those to make you happy. The other treatment, I think I am gonna pass on. Thank you all the same for that. And I'm just as glad that I did. So now the current thing is the yellow and blue Ukrainian flag. Whatever the mainstream media is pushing, they are right in the middle of that groupthink. They're terrified of getting dogpiled by other left-wingers. That looks like the soy jack face. So they don't seem to comprehend that reasonable adults can disagree without being disagreeable. It's the participation trophy generation. I mean, we're so effed. We're just so effed. Because you have so many adults now, adult bodies with childlike means of arguing, because they're in their safe spaces. They've never been exposed to different beliefs, divergent opinions, and where they haven't learned to have a discussion without ad hominem. That's why they censor and they deplatform as much as they can. And then if they actually have a conversation, they want to immediately deflect, ad hominem, straw man, and just say some like they parrot some talking points that have no basis in fact, and then they block and they move on. It's like that's the fault of social media, because people used to be able to have face-to-face discussions, and they were obviously much more polite because you're reading body language and facial expressions. It's a whole different thing. It's like the entire generations now, at least for the past 15 years, have been very much online. It's like we've had 10 solid 15 years of being like these terminally online people who don't know how to deal face-to-face with people and have more mild, nuanced discussions. Like, you talk to people online like you'd never talk to them in real life. And it's not just some machismo thing about, oh, you're going to get punched in the nose with somebody. It's, no, because you'd be embarrassed. You'd be ashamed of yourself if you just had an immediate appeal to emotion. That's why the conversations in real life are slower and more careful to try to come up with reasonable takes. And you realize how emotionally immature, it's something like Twitter is, it's something like 15% of the Twitter users are doing the majority of the tweets, and then you get online, you see that, like, all those big accounts who are just tweeting nonstop. They live on Twitter. If they were deplatformed, they would go into withdrawal, and they'd really have a hard time. Like, you saw that with all the Trump reply guys when he left in 2020. They didn't know what to do with themselves, and some of them kind of came back to normal. There's the Krasenstein brothers. I think one of them had kind of a return to normalcy a little bit, but a lot of the other ones were just, they were so worked up. They're the ones who said, like, MAGA kids go in the wood chipper, and those damn Covington Catholic kids, we need to do violence against these children. Like, do you believe in due process? Have you seen all the facts for yourself? No, I just heard the CNN pushed a certain narrative, and I'm 100% on board with it. Yeah, they lied. Now you know they lied. Have you changed your narrative? Rittenhouse, we have a certain narrative. So once you saw the full video, did you change your mind on that? And the thing is with Rittenhouse, no, they didn't change their mind on that because they couldn't. Like, they're so dedicated to that they cross state lines. So people are crossing borders all over the world. I thought you guys were pro that. Anyway, so the media now does not present two sides of a story. It is all Ukraine. Anti-Russia. That's the only narrative. The media is not the media. The media hasn't been the media since. I mean, it was always left-wing bias. But you go back a few decades, and every decade you go further and further back, it was different, and it was coming closer and closer to being a more even-handed presentation. But it was always left-wing bias. Even in the. I mean, you could start noticing it in the '60s. You'd probably start noticing the left-wing bias when the media companies slowly got bought out. And I mean, that's just a whole other history, but it's probably not a video that is going to be on YouTube anymore. It's funny, a lot of very interesting historical videos just disappeared off of YouTube. Weird. Anyway, so it's the modern media now doesn't even pretend to be unbiased. Those days are long gone. But the white pill obviously is if you have a $50 cell phone, then you have what you need to get out there and get a message out there. You can be the next, whatever, Drudge, Elijah Schaffer, Tim Pool type of thing. So the media doesn't even pretend to be unbiased. It's weird how the bulk of people on both sides are fully on board trusting the appeal to authority. Instead of looking at Dems and Republicans, Fox and CNN, and realizing, well, it's all wealthy, powerful lizard people who break bread together, or rather in their case, they drink baby blood and champagne with Bolivian marching powder mixed in. So here, the Kotaku comment section is pretty much what you expect. The cringy joke is Blue Anon. Well, they have their own version of Trust the Plan. Trust Zelensky, and I don't know if you saw that Rothschild's tweet on his version of democracy for Europe. Terrifying, absolutely horrifying. So both sides love to turn off their brain and put their trust in the external instead of focusing on whatever your guiding principle is, the dogma. That's why you write that dogma down to go, this is what we believe in. If you have a leader who abandons that dogma, then GTFO. Whether it's Trump with his disregard for free speech, the Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment on unreasonable searches and seizures, Fifth due process, or Zelensky was shutting down the press and the churches, or funneling American taxpayer money into mansions for his parents. It's funny how the media was so against the openly corrupt Ukrainian government until very recently. It's possible to be against both sides and realize, yeah, nobody wants to see Squirrel Girl when you have the idealized feminine form. It's the same with the masculine form. It's like nobody wants. These are idealized characters. It's a freaking comic book or the digital equivalent of video game. You don't have to be the world's policeman. You don't have to get involved in wars 10,000 miles away. That includes all those wars in the warm, sandy places, which, whether you're on the left or the right, just always been in war. Those warm, sandy places, which is a whole nother video, but also not one that's... Anyway, so if the Ukrainian example is the type of democracy... I went down that rabbit hole last night. There was some video, some live stream was going down I think the guy's... He's on Odyssey, and his channel's called Napalm. He was going down the one of those truther rabbit holes. It's fascinating how much objective evidence there is out there. It's like, the media had a different perspective. What happened? So if the Ukrainian example is the type of democracy people want to defend, then it's not worth it. It's not a country when it's ruled by a puppet like Zelensky. It's just a commercial zone ruled by NGOs, very similar to what America is. You saw what happened when the conflict broke out. So, hey, left-wingers, you guys support free speech or not? Billion-dollar companies or private companies, they can restrict your speech. So then, de facto, they rule the country, but we have free speech. So, I mean, wouldn't you want to apply those free speech laws or principles to these billion-dollar companies? Puts a left-winger in a really tricky position because it turns out they actually do not value free speech. And then the plot twist is the right-wing, organized right-wing, the cons that don't actually conserve anything, they don't value free speech either. So it's a whole different... We're going to have to gather together a new tribe of people who, we value free speech no matter how offensive it is. Anything other than a threat of GBI, the Supreme Court has carved these exceptions. Well, we don't want the non-elected NGOs to do the work that the government is prohibited from doing in restricting our speech. Yeah, we want to build a state, a country where we actually have those principles. Oh, like America 2.0? Yeah, probably. Hey, form groups. Anyway, so large groups of people who lived and worked there, people who extracted money from Ukraine, suddenly packed up and left. They openly said, why would they fight for Ukraine? They don't consider it their country. These are what the interviews of these people... They're citizens of the world. They're coming from all over the world. They go, oh, yeah, suddenly there's a conflict. yeah, it's not our country. We're just there to take resources from the people. So they packed up, they hopped on the trains, and they just got the F out of those countries so they could extract resources in other countries and move on. So that's what a commercial zone country is. It's a globalist dream. It's not actually a country, it's just a business. So the actual Ukrainians had to stay, and they were forced into the army to jump into the meat grinder. And the war is over. These parasites will come back and continue to extract resources until they suck the country dry. The sheep love Ukraine so they can fight for democracy. But Zelensky literally shut down the free speech of the media and closed Christian churches. Well, if you don't have free speech, press, assembly, right to redress a grievance, religion, then what exactly are you fighting for? These people just keep saying this word democracy. They just keep parodying that word over and over again. And, you raise your hand and go, why don't you, in America, it's like, don't you mean constitutional representative republic? Because democracy is just a mob rule from the Greek word, right? We're constitutional representative republic. Rights inalienable, granted from God. And you look at Zelensky and Ukraine, they go, yeah, but they don't believe in God. So you're in a bit of a... So you guys don't have like common language, culture, belief system, nationality, DNA. You don't have anything in common. You're just a NGO-run commercial zone because countries are one people. Anyway, so if democracy means that Zelensky can remove these rights in an emergency, then your democracy is not something to aspire to. If you let the state remove rights in an emergency, well, they can create or continue the emergency whenever they want to remove rights. Those aren't rights. That's an authoritarian state, which is why we on the right want decentralized, like a 50-state model, to go back to like a real 50-state model, to remove the Fed and have hard borders on the 50 states, or some other model, because clearly this Fed model is not working. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Check out the subscribe star. Thanks to everyone who has gotten me very close to that goal. And I will see you guys all next episode.